Well, thank you all for being here. Welcome. I have some more coming. There we go. Welcome to everybody for being here. Thank you very much for being here. This is our first State of the Department address. It's been 6 months since I took over as Chief of Police, so I wanted to give you an update as to what we're doing. I want to thank everybody for being here. Little quick introductions. We got Mayor Wayne Best here, Vice Mayor Lonnie Wright, Councilman Chris Ayler, Councilman Tim Johnson, and I believe we're missing just a couple other. We have City Manager Kevin Helms is here as well, and Assistant Chief Kenny Humphrey. Lieutenant Jared Whitman's going to be here, but he's out on a call dealing with a man with a gun, so that which resolved quite nicely. It's been a wild and fast 6 months. It's already been 6 months, and we've accomplished quite a lot. We have a lot of positive changes, and we're really excited about where the department is and where we're going. Morale is up. We have reorganized our personnel and bringing the number of extraneous management positions down, putting more cops in the street, all the while saving money. We've purchased 8 new police units, which are currently in the process of being getting their striping, getting their lights and sirens, and we're hoping to have the first one coming back next week. We contacted them this morning, and they might be a little behind because we're not the only ones that bought police cars, so we're kind of in line. But we're really excited about those cars. That's going to make the lives of our police officers more safe and effective because all of these cars start and they all drive forward, and that's a wonderful thing. We have hired 4 new police officers. We had some vacancies, and we had some people leave the department shortly before I got here. There was a vacancy before I got here, and through our reorganization efforts of reducing some of the upper echelon extra positions that we did not need, we now have been able to hire 4 new police officers. They're all in the academy. They'll be graduating June 9th. And they will be hitting the streets with their FTOs shortly thereafter, and we should have them out in a couple of months after that. We are really excited about getting these new officers out there and getting them to add to our depleted force of police officers. We're gearing up for some new recruiting because we still have a couple of vacancies that recently happened with some resignations and retirements. Officer Ryan Allred is moving back to Middle Tennessee where he is from, so that position is vacated as of actually this Friday. I think his last day on patrol was yesterday. So we're looking to fill that position. We have an open sergeant position, which we will be hopefully promoting in the near future, and that will create a position that one of our police officers will be assuming, and then we'll be hiring a spot for that as well. So we are excited about the future of our police force. And I can say with confidence that the state of the department is good and it's getting better every day. I'd like to run you through a small list of things that we have been working on, either accomplished and or still working on. We have reduced our injury accidents overall with a targeted traffic campaign. Last month, I believe, was the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, Assistant Chief, that we've had only 1 injury accident in a month. Before that, we've had 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 injury accidents, and we're down to 1. We have been doing a targeted campaign on speeding on Roan State Highway and other parts of town where we're getting speeding, and I think the word is out that we need to slow down a little bit, less gas, more brake, stop at stop signs, and wait for traffic to clear, and there's a lot less chance of getting in an accident. One of the things we're really proud of also is that we just had a burglary detail working on a string of 11 burglaries that resulted in 7 arrests or 7 suspects and multiple, I think 4 arrests and 7 more suspects or 3 more suspects pending, with clearing 11 burglaries and being able to return property to homeowners who have been burglarized. So we're really excited about that program happened. It happened as a result of our reorganization. We moved some people around and put our detectives all in one room together, and we dispensed with the notion of dividing the department in small parts and calling them divisions, when really with 23, 4, 5 people in an entire department, you can't really have a division of people. Our detectives have been reorganized to work collectively together on any and all crimes, and they're not being specifically told, well, this is what you do and this is what you do. We're all going to work crimes together. So I put them all in a room together with the detective sergeant, Kent Warren, which is a new position that was which was a conversion of a lieutenant's position into a detective sergeant position instead, and he is now running that bureau. Sitting together now, they come up with ideas. They banter these things back and forth, and that's how they came up with this idea to go do these surveillances. And they were working nights, and they changed their schedule. So the collective work of these detectives, no longer being told, this is what you work on and this is what you work on. Instead, we're all working together. Has made a drastic change in how we're able to investigate felony crimes like burglaries and other things. We transferred the Internet Crimes Against Children unit that was being housed specifically out of this police department and was being covering the 9th Judicial District out of using one of our employees solely to do that. We transferred that operation to the 9th Judicial District Attorney General's office using their investigators, and we're still getting the same results of whatever investigations stem from or related to Harriman. We're still getting that service, but this department is no longer paying for it. It's in a regional position, and it's now being paid through the regional programs where it better belongs. We recently finished a leadership program for our sergeants and our lieutenant. The results from that have been instant and dynamic. Getting our sergeants all in the same sheet of music, all understanding what their role is, and elevating them to full-fledged supervisors with an expectation level that goes with it has made a drastic change in how we're running each shift. The sergeants, it's part of this reorganization, instead of having all those extra administrators that we really didn't need per se, their duties have been all dispensed down to the sergeant levels, or many of them have. Whatever that is, that doesn't make it on Lieutenant Whitson's desk, who has now arrived. Thanks for being able to be here. We're putting a lot of the different programs into the hands of the individual sergeants who can now work on those. And so now we have a multi-team of people working on these things together versus it all falling on, formerly a lot of it fell on the assistant chief's desk. And now we're spreading the wealth around, spreading the responsibilities around and the expectation levels, and it's working out quite well. We have closed the off-site facility. There was a facility that we were paying for electricity and water and utilities and whatnot, and it was not being used very often or not efficiently. So we closed that down, and the savings from that has been significant for us. And that we haven't missed a beat on what we're doing. We just closed an off-site facility, brought our equipment back over here, and reissued it into a different method of doing things. Recently, we're getting our MDTs reestablished. We had, or have, these tough books that have been on the shelf for a while because they didn't have the right systems or something else. But anyway, in the time that we've been reorganizing and reestablishing who's to do what and who's responsible for what, we learned that the computers themselves really needed only an upgrade in software and an upgrade in RAM. So we purchased that RAM and getting them upgraded, and they're going to be reinitiated with Round County 911. So we will be able to reissue these tough books back out to the police cars and get them back working on the CAD program. The computers we have now are basically just laptops, and they're fragile. They're not made for being in a police car and taking that kind of wear and tear. So this is going to be a nice upgrade to what they've been doing. One of the major things that we're working on, in fact, Assistant Chief Humphrey is spearheading this, is we are redoing and rewriting and updating and making appropriate our policy manual, which hasn't been updated for, I think, 10 or 12 years. I mean, we haven't had a policy update since before the iPhone was invented. So it's time to get that done, and that is a major task. Again, rather than just dumping it on the one desk and him being responsible for all of that, our reorganization has brought a leadership model in that has this policy project divided amongst, how many people do you have on it now? Four people have different responsibilities and collaborating together so that this is getting done. He's got 4 people. With him it makes 5, and ultimately with me it makes 6, that are going over this policy manual rather than it sitting on one desk for months and months and months, not getting done because there's too much to do for one person. So that is one of the things that we really focus on, is delegating down and bringing our supervisors up to the level that they belong at, that they feel confident at, to be able to do all the kind of things that need to get done. And they're doing a great job at it. I'm very proud of them. Along that, we are redesigning our field training officer program in anticipation of the rookies getting out of the academy. The former program wasn't really all that official, and it wasn't that intricate. This one is very robust, and it is going to be a 2-month program of intense training. They're going to start out with one FTO, and then they're going to swap around every couple of weeks or every so often in order to get that different opinion, that different style, that different background, those different experiences from a variety of different FTOs. And they're going to spend some time back at the Detective Bureau, which will allow them to get some of that training as well. And we're looking forward to having a nice, or I should say a serious training program that will make them safe and effective police officers for the street. When an officer goes to an academy, you think they've got their basic training. The basic academy just teaches them the basic laws, felonies and misdemeanors, some self-defense, some shooting. It's not the training. In fact, law enforcement training never ends. And the field training program, being only 2 months, and I say only because in other programs can be up to 6 months, even up to a year in some departments. Our officers, after 2 months of training here, will be on shifts with other seasoned officers, and they're going to get the training that they need to be safe and successful. With that, with our hiring program, we changed that as well. We sat down and talked about what we want for our officers. And one of the things that we were not going to do was that we weren't going to have a couple of administrators just pick a guy or girl from, we heard about somebody, and just snatch them up off the street and throw them in the academy or give them a badge. We are doing an intense background investigation. The last set of hiring that we did, we put out applications on Indeed.com, and we got some 230 applicants. About half of those showed up for, or at least took the written test or took the background investigation packet, or showed up for the written test and the physical agility test. The written test wasn't incredibly difficult. It wasn't really difficult at all, but it was just a basic skills test, and a lot of people flunked it. Just some basic grammar, some basic common sense things, and people couldn't pass it. We gave a physical agility test, which wasn't incredibly hard to pass, but we had people show up that couldn't do one singular push-up or one singular sit-up. And so that's not going to cut it if you want to be a safe officer who's going to have to protect themselves and their partners from, from harm and during a critical incident. So we've raised the standards, and we expect high standards of our current officers, and we're raising those standards, and we can't do that without raising the standards of our entry-level officers who must pass a rigorous background. The background packet is some 35 pages long. There's a few pages that they're duplicative for a longer history, but really it's, so call it 30 pages. We have people not take the time to fill it out. Well, you've expressed to me already that you don't want to do police work because we do a lot of writing. And if you're not going to fill out that background packet, or you fear filling out that background packet and answering those questions, I don't want you. You don't want them, and I don't want them next to me, and I don't want them next to my officers. And we had people complain it was too much work. So you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you get on patrol and start taking burglaries and crime calls. You got paperwork to do. So that answers a lot of it for us. It's not meant to be a task, but it is meant to determine whether or not this is the right person to work here. And you don't have to be perfect, but you can't, you have to come from a good moral background. We did things like instituting a home visit. They sign a waiver that says, you're going to come to my home at an unannounced time between normal daylight hours, and I'm giving you right to walk into my house when I'm home and see how I live. I had a couple of my detectives tell me that they got to the house and turned around and said, disqualified. They lived in such disarray, and it was such a, bad place, the way they maintained their house, that this is how they live, that's how they're going to live here, and that's not what we want. We don't have to be perfect, but we're not looking for, this isn't a place to make people good. We want good people to come here and make this place great. So that's the difference. It's weeded out a lot of people, and we're better off for it. The 4 we have now are excited, young, eager, they're having a good time. They're full of bruises right now from the academy. They'll survive, and we're looking forward to seeing them soon. Switching gears now, talking about some other stuff we want to do in the upcoming events. We're looking at doing a summer safety fair. Maybe it's going to be a fall safety fair. Rebecca and I have been working on it, but dates keep getting pushed around, and we want to join up with all of our departments, or at least the fire and police department and city services, to put on a safety fair. So that's what we're calling it right now. That name could change, but we're looking to put on a nice program to be able to bring people out, get a chance to meet the cops, meet the firefighters, and learn some things about how they can be better at help to us in law enforcement, and educate people on some child safety things, some fire safety things, and a variety of different topics which we're going to get to. So look forward to that announcement in the future. That's coming out. Something else we started, and this again, Assistant Chief Humphrey has been instrumental in this, primarily, is we are now collecting, for the first time I think, really accurate statistical data, which we haven't had before, and we don't have a system that allows us to do this. And the City Council has seen the stats, and what you don't know is that takes him a day to a day and a half to put together, because we don't have a system where he can just say, click, click, give me the stats. He has to go to 4 or 5 different systems, pull it out, calculate it, bring it into a cohesive document that you see that looks really great, but it takes him about all day to get that done, because we don't have a system, and many exist out there, but we don't have one. We're not connected to one that lets us do that. We don't have a way to pull the data off of CAD currently, because we're not part of that system. We are now a Google Police Department. For those of you familiar with the Google platform, you'll know what that means. For those of you who aren't, this is a lot like, well, this is exactly like what the school system has, except for theirs is free. Ours costs a little bit, but it is a huge savings. We have our own domain, harrimanpd.org, and our Google platform allows us to collaborate seamlessly online. We have unlimited data storage, so we're not buying for servers. That's what Google does for a business. That's how they make their money. And it is so cost effective to have all of our information. I mean, every bit of it's going to wind up being scanned and put there digitally. We have unlimited data storage and unlimited data storage retrieval and administrative power over the data and our emails, and all that can be run off of one administrator's desk, and it's fantastic. We can collaborate on documents. Currently, the way it'll work, as an example, we're saving paper and ink. We're saving paper and ink like crazy. We're not buying reams like we used to. The Lieutenant, Assistant Chief, and I will be working on a collaborative document. As an example, some of the traffic issues that Mr. Helms had asked for, he starts writing it, gets some information, sends to the Assistant Chief, he edits it, he kicks it to me, I find it. Before we know it, we got 4 or 5 drafts done. It's never been printed and sent off to Mr. Helms, and he's enacted upon it already, and we never printed a piece of paper and never used an ounce of toner. That's saving us money. Those things are saving us big time. And we're really happy with the technology advancements that we're having and continue to have and continue to look forward to. It's making a huge change. Recently, one of the things we're also able to do, and this was cost-free, is to get our officers all ASP batons, the collapsible batons, pepper spray, and believe it or not, our officers have not either had pepper spray or it's been out of date for months or years. They don't have state-of-the-art handcuffs. Some of the handcuffs they had were old rusty buckets. And their leather gear, their tactical equipment is either outdated or not safe. It's been on an unsafe level. They had some of their holsters that they're using were not the security kind that have the double snaps or the triple snaps or the swivel or whatever it is. These it's called level 3 is the toughest way to keep a weapon in its holster, and that saves the officer if they get into a struggle and someone grabs their gun. Unless you know how to use that holster, you're not going to get out of there. Many of them don't have that, haven't had that, have had to beg, borrow, and steal uniform equipment. It's been mismatched, it's outdated. Using some reserve funds and using from another resource, we were able to buy all new leather gear, batons, and pepper spray, and issue that and the leather gear to all of our officers for the first time, I think, in the city's history. That's all been issued, as it should be. An officer should have the best equipment that you can get that's going to make them safe. This is what keeps them alive, and they haven't had that. So we were able to do that, and one of the key issues with that is when you don't have the batons and the pepper spray, and we don't have the tasers, and we're short tasers as well, there's nothing between a wrestling match and a pistol. And that was inherently dangerous, and we've solved that problem. We're issuing that equipment out in the next couple of days. Hopefully we're waiting for the last batch to come in from the vendor, and when that gets here, we're issuing out all that equipment to the employees. Along with the safety issue, bulletproof vests. Sadly, our female officers have been forced to wear male-made vests all these years, and that's unsafe and inappropriate. So we have our female officers now have vests that are ergonomically made for female officers, especially measured for them, and the other officers who didn't have vests or had expired vests or had vests that were under the appropriate level have all received, or some have received new vests, and the next year we'll be taking care of those. Vests have a shelf life of 5 years, or a wear life of 5 years before the Kevlar breaks down and they're no good. And we're coming up on that, and some have been wearing vests that have been out of date. So we're taking care of that, and we're looking at taking care of more of those this year. We have, like I said, we have our new website, harrimanpd.org. On the front page of that, if you scroll to the bottom, are 3 buttons, which will allow you to make contact with us for 3 different levels at this point, and we can add more. But a general inquiry, a request for extra patrol, and then another one is for a request for traffic. And then those, when you click on that button, you get a form. You fill out some basic information, and you can do it anonymously as well. When you send it in, it goes to the appropriate person to handle that. Rather than trying to get a hold of somebody and making a phone call, and you can do this 24/7, we get the email instantly. And a lot of the general inquiries can be handled there. So we're starting to see people use that. We haven't really announced it till today, so I'll let people know that that is up and active, and please use that. Get us that information, get us the crime tips. You want to leave it anonymously and let me know that you're seeing this on your street, type it in or click it, hit submit, it's anonymous. We don't know who it is, and we need that information, and you can feel free that we don't know who you are. So, and with that, last thing on the public service, we're going to be doing a newsletter. Like I said, it will be coming out soon. I'm hoping to get that out in the next month. So our remaining issues, again, not every officer has a taser. They cost $1,500 each. Over the years, they've broken and not been replaced. And they're like any other piece of equipment. They wear out, and at some point they need to be replaced, and we are short. We do not have a taser for every officer. We don't have body cameras. There had been body cameras purchased. They were very, very cheaply made. When I first got here, one of the first things I heard complaints about was the body cameras. And I was told we had them, we bought them, and they're working, then they kind of don't work, and the server doesn't work, and they don't support us, and the buttons are breaking off, and we get new ones, and they don't, and they trade them in. And so I made an assumption the first month or two that I was here that we had had these for a very long time. And then I learned, oh, no, we've only had these for 8 or 9 months. And you know, I couldn't believe that in 9 months these things were so badly made that they were breaking. So I did something that I've always wanted to do. I swear that I've always wanted to do this. I wanted to tell a company, I want my money back. I want my city's money back. You sold us an inferior product and we're not going to accept that and just go on and complain about it. I want my money back. So we got it back. They did not have other cameras that they could sell us because they were locked into a contract with this one vendor, so they gave us store credit. It was that money that we were able to use to buy all the leather gear and the safety equipment, which is paramount and more important that they have the safety equipment to protect themselves than we have body cameras. So that decision was collectively made, and I agree with that. We need to buy the safety equipment first, and we'll work on trying to get cameras. With that, Assistant Chief Humphrey has already applied for and submitted a grant to THSO, and we're hoping that that will be funded as it has in the years past, maybe even increased. We'll see what happens at the federal level and then the state level. And then depending on if we get an award, it then depends on what slice of that pie we get. So we have no idea what that could be and what that could look like. But that grant was written with the intent and hopes of getting body and dash cameras. Our dash cameras were bought by Sheriff Jack Stockton when he was the police chief here. That's how the dash cams are, and they've been falling apart and breaking, and the system that they work on is old, and so these cameras are 10, 12 years old, and they're of an older antiquated system that we want to look at replacing with a combined body camera system that the companies now make, where these are integrated, that the recordings work off each other, they're slaved off of one another. So if you hit one button on your chest, it turns on the camera, vice versa. If you turn on your lights, it turns on the camera on the dashboard and your body camera. There's no thinking about it. There's no remembering to turn it on. They have nowadays, with technology being the way it is, a whole lot different than it was 12 years ago. These things can recognize, they're always recording, and they can recognize that you've been in a crash and go back and pull up footage from like a minute ago or 30 seconds ago. They can recognize, was a gunshot or something else that they can recognize, or somehow if the weapon is pulled from its holster, it can recognize that and turn the camera on. So if an officer winds up bouncing into a critical situation, it's recorded because it's always recording and then it feeds back. The technology is wonderful, but it costs a little bit. And we're working on the grant. We're working on some quotes where they'll finance it over a few years that would make it budget palatable. And so we're hoping to be able to bring something to council in the near future that would be something we could do to get these back up. Our future goals. We have another last bit of the reorganization is our police service specialist job that we have created as we've replaced what a captain was doing. We were paying a captain formerly to handle the evidence room and other administrative duties that make this department run, make every police department run. You have to have an evidence officer who collects the evidence, takes it to the lab, gets it back, keeps that chain of legal custody, because you can't just have anybody do it. You have to have one person assigned, and there's this whole legal side to all that. That position was being done by a captain. When that captain retired, that has now, I'm looking to have that converted into a cheaper position of the police service specialist job, which would allow us to hire somebody to perform that at a consistent level versus giving it to a police officer or other ranking member of the department who then is sort of stuck sideways in a career because they're in a job that doesn't allow them upward mobility. This is a job that would be consistent, administrative, and we're looking to get that job and that pay scale authorized so that we can find someone who's looking long-term to work with us for the next 8, 10, 12 years on that job. And that would make our administrative lives so much easier and consistent. When we get these folks on patrol and we get the others hired, and we're about to do a recruiting campaign for certified officers, it is going to be our goal to target some of the issues that I know are happening, bless you, about drug activity. I'm aware that there are some pockets of our city that have been witnessing an increase in drug activity and other issues. right now our staffing levels are such that we're having to pay overtime just to make the shift work, let alone having any kind of extra coverage. When these folks get on the street, especially with their FTOs, that's going to be extra bodies on the road that now they don't need a backup unit. That effectively puts a car free. And once they actually get on the street by themselves, that's going to be 2 cars free. We're going to be able to do those things. I'm fully aware that there are issues that need to be handled. Right now, I just ask your patience to keep the information coming to us. Please use the website if you want to go anonymously or not anonymously. Continue to call us, continue to contact our detectives. And we are building our cases slower than we'd like to, but we are building our cases, and we are going to do that when we have the manpower. Right now, it's everything we can do to get from here to there and maintain one shift with the minimum staffing levels possible. In the future, we're going to have a crime lab piece by piece. One of the reorganizations put all the detectives together, freed up a room, and we're going to make that into a crime lab. Detective Sergeant Warren is highly trained in criminal forensics, and he knows how to do a lot of the things that we have to wait on a lab to do now if we were just to have some basic forensic equipment. All we really have is some black powder and a couple other things. There are numerous things that we need to get that don't cost that much. We just need to get those things and establish that crime lab, and we will be able to do forensic examinations of evidence that the officers get in the street. Right now we can't, and right now I'm using Detective Sergeant Warren on the street because we're short-staffed. So, but when that all gets resolved, we're going to have a crime lab here that will be a dry and a wet lab, preferably, and we'll be able to do quite a bit, a lot more quickly, on the job, on the spot, and make us a lot more effective. With that, we're also looking at doing a lot of training that has not been done for a while. We have a lot of internal expertise that can handle that training, and we have partnerships with other agencies who will come over and do training. And with that, we are looking at doing a funded training program where agencies are used to paying to get good training, and we're going to bring training in here and charge a reasonable rate and be able to use, the idea is to use those funds to buy more training equipment and help augment the training program here and build that to get more training equipment to bring better training here. We don't have blue guns and blue knives and blue rifles enough to do tactical training safely. It's not a good idea to just unload your weapon and go out and play in the parking lot. Accidents happen. We need those kinds of things, and we're hoping that by bringing training in here with people who are willing to partner with us, we can make that happen and bring some funds into the training program. Coupled with that, we're working on a proposal with an accredited university who is excited at the idea of providing accredited college course credit for advanced officer training courses. Providing college credit for our AOT classes, giving them partial credit in a criminal justice bachelor's program. And they're excited about doing that, having a place where they can get to students. They can get the students that are going to be enrolled there. The cost of the training would cover that minor tuition, and we're looking at all this, how this can happen, and we're really pushing to make that happen. Hopefully we can. Second to that would be the hope that, and they like this idea too, that this might become a satellite campus for them to have their regular full-fledged bachelor program for law enforcement. I've seen it done in other places where they know how to deliver the educational program to cops who have to work 24/7, 365, depending on their shifts, and they make it work. They run these classes, sometimes 6 hours on a weekend, so that you can get in there, and in hybrid, you go back and do online, and all these different things are available, and we have universities excited about working with us, and we're in that. We're in discussion phases, so that's why I leave their name out of it for now, and we're hoping that's going to work out to everyone's benefit. Let's see, grant funding, we talked about that. And lastly, I guess, we're going to continue to enjoy a higher level of community policing. For those of you who saw our Facebook page or Bowers Elementary Facebook page yesterday, we went out there and played some kickball with the kids, and that was a blast. We had a great time. Lieutenant can roll a curveball like no one's business. And we had a really good time. And that's the kind of thing that we really enjoy. It's a great chance to see kids when they're not victims of crimes. They're not at a house where other crimes are happening, where we're having to deal with the negative aspects of their parents or their drunk uncle or whatever is happening there, and they get a chance to interact with us all being normal, and we had a wonderful time with that. We want to continue to do that, and with that community involvement, we are going to up our VIP program, the Volunteers and Police Services. That's going to get a reboot. We're ready to go. I have Officer Tommy Capps ready and willing and at the gate chomping at the bit to blast off with this program, but I'm holding him back because right now we don't have the method of taking in these volunteers. I know based on the support we've been receiving that if I announced officially that we're accepting applications for volunteers, we'd probably be flooded with them. We don't have a way to handle them right now. We're letting that foundation cure a little bit more, and we're going to be ready to kick that off. And that is a huge and vital goal of mine and program to a police department, to have its volunteers be available for all these events. It cuts down on overtime. It gets communities working together. I've seen it. I've used volunteers in my previous employment. At a station about this size, we had 80 volunteers because they worked a little here and a little there, and it was wonderful. When we needed something big, we could get 30 people to come help with the parade. And that's what we're looking to get to. And those days are coming, and we hope to get there sooner than later. The impatience is only with ourselves that we can't get there as fast as we'd like to, but we are getting there. So lastly, I'd like to end my main comments with a thanks to all of you for being here, and a special thanks to Mayor Wayne Best and his leadership. You have provided us with the opportunity to succeed and to enhance our police department. The support of our city council has been phenomenal. It's one of the reasons I decided that I would, be glad to jump in the mix and take this job if it were available to me, because I saw what's happening in the city of Harriman, that there is actual real support for its law enforcement emergency services. It's not platitude, it's real support. I have witnessed it, I've experienced it, and I truly appreciate it. I know our officers do, and I just can't thank you enough for your leadership in that regard, and all the city council for your support. We have accomplished many of the goals we set out to do in the beginning. We have changed the bloated management so that we have more cops in the street. When we're done with this reorganization hiring, we will have nearly doubled our police officers on the street. We're going to have a stable administrator run the evidence room to the levels that it needs to be so we can get accredited. And we're going to have all that happening, and it's costing less money than was budgeted for this year. So we're going to be saving money and doing more, and we're spending the people's money more wisely. So I thank you all for being here, and I appreciate all of your support. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them, if there are any.
I got one, Chief.
Sir.
Thinking about all our needs and they are justifiable. Do we have someone who looks out for grants? And I'm thinking in the area of drugs, that's a huge activity with the present administration, and I would think perhaps there might be some opportunities there for equipment.
Absolutely. We had that discussion this morning. I got an email yesterday from the DOJ and the COPS grants. There's new funding. I think with the new administration in the White House, I don't know that I've ever seen a president provide that much support verbally and physically for law enforcement as this one, and I do believe that we're going to continue to see that kind of support at the federal level and that kind of funding trickle down to the state, county, and cities. There are COPS grants out there and other grants. As of this morning, I gave one to Assistant Chief Humphrey, and I asked him to start working on that and delegating it out to a variety of different people to get all that research and back information that we need. That one's $8 million of shared monies out there, and it's not a matching grant, it's straight grant. So yeah, we're looking at that. We're now ready to do that. We weren't ready to do that when I walked in the door. We're now ready to start doing that, and we absolutely will. Any other questions?
Chief Pacifico, how many officers are on duty daily?
We have a police officer and a sergeant on duty during the day shift between 8 and 5. We additionally also have our patrol watch commander, Lieutenant Whitson. Then on, depending on the days, and I don't have it memorized, and maybe Lieutenant Whitson can speak to that, we have our K-9 who's also a cover. So during some hot hours, more busy hours, we have a third officer on, but it's partial during the week.
Because I know in our town, in Rockwood, you usually have 3 to 4. Of course, you have your staff like you and Chief Humphreys and all, or Assistant Chief Humphreys. And then detectives can be called in, of course. if
Absolutely.
needed. But your officers not working zones, they're just basically at large, is that?
Absolutely. We have one police officer on duty and one
Because
sergeant.
they're so widespread now, it's just like it's,
Our goal is to get there and to have the same staffing levels that Rockwood will have soon. And once these guys get back out of the
I
academy,
think we don't have 3. so-
we should be able to achieve that once they get
Oh, you don't
out.
have 3 on duty right now?
Nope. Our goal is to have 2 police officers and a sergeant on every shift, and then have a cover for those different times and availabilities, and then that cover could slip into someone's vacation spot, so we'd still maintain a total of 3 officers per shift, 2 and
Well,
two and a
I know
sergeant.
this leads, we don't have it every 7 days. a week.
Well, and we won't either, as you look at it, you know, in the wintertime, you change your shifts based on the calendar. When it's just cold and dark and no one's coming outside, you know, you bounce those shifts down, you move them more during the day hours, but we need to have more than just, I'll give you an example today, but there are shortages. Lieutenant Whitson was on a call. He had somebody on a more low-level crime that he was prepared to arrest, but then a higher priority crime came out, and he had to let that person go because there's nobody else to go take that one. So he had to just let bird in hand go. We won't be doing that soon. We'll be able to have one go here and one go there, but right now, we're short. But we're getting there. That's our motto. We're getting there. So,
As you mentioned, some troubled areas, some troubled spots, I think Unaka Street may be one area that's kind of hot a lot. I seen a report where somebody from Unaka Street was arrested for 3 charges of aggravated assault and several lead charges. Did that happen here last night, or are you aware of that?
I'm not personally familiar with that one. Are you aware of that one?
That's the aggravated assault I did over
Is that
at the,
Butler?
across from Little Caesars. It didn't occur on Unique Street, it occurred on Roan Street across from Little Caesars.
See, those are things I'd like for us to be able to have access to the media, that we can give you the credit for doing those, because I've had to put a call into the sheriff's office to see who arrested this individual.
I would love to have that available to you as well. That's one of the things we're working on, is trying to find a way. There's a system out there called Emergitech, and the county has it, and we don't. And that's where the information get kicked out. We just don't have that right now, and we're working on all those administrative things. We're working on that. We want to get it, but please keep reminding us all about that.
Sorry, Lieutenant, where was that arrest made at?
It occurred, the incident occurred across from Little Caesars.
Okay, and that was a Butler subject, I understand?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just make sure.
If you'll call me on stuff like that, I'll be happy to get your
Oh,
report.
good, appreciate it.
Easily email.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
We just don't have a system right now that we can just kick out that information.
Right.
We just,
And
it
I
doesn't.
understand some things have to be held up anyway, so I understand.
Well, those, yeah, I mean, I would just tell you, hey, I can't tell you about that one yet because we're working it. But the other stuff I want you to hear about, we just don't have a way to hit Control P and kick it out of a printer. It just doesn't, that system exists, we just don't have it. All right, well, thank you very much. If there's no other questions, thank you very much for coming.